Okay, I'm Chelsea Brown, and I'm going to tell a lesson that I didn't learn, but it impacted my life greatly. A lot of kids had these when they were little. This was my favorite toy, and it almost killed me. So I was hanging out with my friend Ashley Bentley, who's 5 years old, and we were like, oh, Mom, we're thirsty. So she ran in the kitchen real quick. We had a fenced-in backyard, so she's like, oh, they'll be fine. So I decided, hey, I'm going to go sit on top of it. So I sit on top, and my friend gets underneath, and I was like, let me wrap my legs around. She's like, oh, no. She goes. And I fell back on my cemented porch and fractured my skull. But I didn't know that at the point. So I was like, Mom's like, oh, here's Tylenol. She didn't know that there was supposed to be a bump or anything. So she's like, I know she's going to be in pain. So then about 7 hours later, because that was at 9 o'clock in the morning, then she decides, before I go to bed, she's like, here, I'll give you some more, because I know you'll be in pain some more. I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm puking. She's like, oh, here's more medicine. She really didn't know. I was her first child and she wasn't sure. So then she's like, and then I was like, Mom, I really don't feel good. And so she took me to the hospital. She had, I think my biological grandmother, whatever, came over and watched my other brothers. And she took me to the hospital and they said, they just did basic blood work and everything. They said, oh, she's fine. You can take her home. Mom's like, I don't feel right. Can you just do a CAT scan? They take me back, they do a CAT scan, and I'm bleeding into my brain. And she's like, they brought a priest to her, and they said, here, because she was by herself at this point. They're like, here's a priest to comfort you. We have to do immediate brain surgery. So they take me back. All I remember is screaming for my mom and crying, and then I was gone. So I went back, and my skull was fractured into many different pieces. They had to remove it, and they had to stop the bleeding, and then they couldn't put the pieces back into my skull. So I had about this much of my skull missing in the back of my head right here. And it was really rough. I was in the hospital for about 2 weeks after that, and then I came home. I just had stuffed animals from everyone. They're like, oh, sweet little precious daughter. Yeah. So I definitely got the attention, but then I stayed home for 2 weeks, and I went back to school. I was in pre-K, I think, at a Christian academy, and my mom came to school with me for a month because she didn't want anything to happen, and she was terrified. So I remember my first day back, I got a bunch of presents, and my boyfriend at the time got me Silly Putty. So that was my favorite present because that's the only thing I remember. And I remember after that month when my mom came, eventually she started to let down a little bit and just come every once in a while and visit. But I guess the lesson was, because I was too young to remember it very well, obviously it affected me and I wasn't supposed to do cheerleading, and I did anyways, but I wasn't supposed to do anything because my skull grew back, but I still have that much left, and if I hit it, I'm instantly dead. So basically, the lesson was for my mom to trust her instincts, because if she didn't get that CAT scan, I would have gone home and died that night. So doctors aren't always right, and trust your instincts.